coming out every week cutting promos being a little bit inappropriate because sponsors and people and stockholders would go nuts. That being said, Corey, there needs to be more of this in the WWE. And I'm not saying to that extent, but more kind of unscripted, more of a fun show. And I noted this on Twitter at Work to Shoot Pod. More of a fun show that doesn't take itself so damn seriously all the time. You know, not so formulaic. It's like this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. Give me something different. Give me a guy coming out, he's gonna cut a promo, he gets attacked for the hell of it. You know, guys cutting promos about different things, guys being funny, playing up to their adult audience a little bit, talking. So I think that although I know it can't be to the extent that The Rock was, because The Rock can really do whatever the hell he wants, I do think there needs to be more of that in the promos and in the way we watch Raw. Because, Corey, we watch Raw every week. We know what the hell is going to happen. They're going to do this, they're going to do this, then they're going to do this. And then The Rock comes on and they totally switched it up. So I think if they did more of that, it'd be more of a fun show for people to watch. And I think more people would watch it. 4 million people watched this week. I know the Royal Rumble wasn't great, but I don't think it was a coincidence that The Rock was on there and the show had higher ratings.
You know what? Let's see. Where do we start with? The Rock, I thought was funny. I thought the segment maybe went a little long, like everything on Raw always does. I mean, live TV, things are going to get cut, things are going to happen on the show. I didn't have a huge problem with the situation with Lana in the back. I mean, was it a little over the top maybe for the PG era? I didn't have a problem with it. I'm going to say it again. But I could see why maybe the idea of if a woman had said that to a man in the exact opposite situation.
What did he say? That we had, he basically said we had sex. What's wrong with that? He basically was like, you came up to my room, we got drunk and had sex. People have conversations like that all the time. What was so horrible about that?
I guess in storyline, I guess he was in a relationship. She's in a relationship with Rusev, I guess, and The Rock was in a serious relationship, just had a kid. I mean, I guess if you look, I guess I didn't have a problem with it. I'm going to say it again before you jump down my throat. But the idea of that maybe it was a little over the line with the idea when you're in a PG mode. I mean, let's be honest here. Is there anything that The Rock can't say when he comes out? I mean, he's throwing around llama penis, which is funny. But, if anyone else on the program, decided to say penis in any sort of way, they'd be sitting in, McMahon's office, getting berated for an hour. I mean,
but Corey, I think the bigger thing is not necessarily he said stuff that was inappropriate, the weed comment stuff. He said stuff that was like little inappropriate, like the weed things, a little, whatever. But in general, I mean more big picture, having guys cut promos that are a little bit more loose, giving guys a bit more of the freedom to talk. I think that's what we're missing, and we've talked about that a lot. But it every now and then it shows up on the show, and I feel like it really did there. It felt like it to you. Did it not feel like it was you were watching a different show?
Well, absolutely. I thought it was fun. I think and the big thing was it was unscripted for them. I mean, he like any time that he comes out there, he's got bullet points. He's got to go, most likely do. He's got to get from point A to point D or whatever you want, whatever letter of the alphabet you want to go to. He had to get out there, go and tell everybody it was WrestleMania season, which the crowd didn't exactly care about that part of it. He had to go and do a little bit of a shtick with the audience. He had to make sure that he said a key line that would get the New Day out. He had to go and say the line and saying Plan B, which was funny, and to get the Usos out to have the interaction. Those things, you know that the segment's going to end with him, giving the rock bottom, the people's elbow to Xavier Woods. I mean, those things are known, but everything in between is free flowing. That's a thing that the Rock did so well in the Attitude Era. That's a thing that DX did at that time. Steve Austin, Mankind, all these guys, NWO, they had bullet points. And then when they got out there, they knew there was a point A to a point B to a point C, and we end the segment on point D, When Paul Heyman has said in many interviews, when he goes out there, he has bullet points, but he could say basically whatever he wants, and that's why when he talks, it's so fresh, engaging, and interesting.
Now, I'm going to interrupt you, Corey, for 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Won't be the
So
first.
you point out that Heyman could do what he wants. Part of the reason is, and I didn't realize this until that Heyman documentary, I think a couple of years ago, that he has his own business set up already. So he makes his own money. So if he got fired from the WWE, he'd be like, all right, I'm fired. I'm sure he wouldn't love it, but he'd be fine. The Rock makes $25 million a picture, whatever the hell he makes now. If WWE said, we don't want you or whatever, I mean, the WWE needs him a lot more than he needs them. So he wouldn't care. And, that's part of it too, maybe, is that, you look at these, the Dolph Zigglers, the Cesaros, the whoever you want to say. For the most part, Corey, like, they need the WWE. They really, really do. And the WWE knows that. And maybe that's part of where the issues are is, Dolph isn't going to say, let me do my own thing. I mean, Dolph's a stand-up comedian. I think he can come up with stuff on his own. But
I don't know how.
I think if he but I think if he try, I mean, I don't think he's Louis C.K. You know what I mean? But if he said, hey, whoever, Road Dogg, on SmackDown, I want to just go off the cuff here and give me some bullet points. I don't think they would let him go, and I think he'd be afraid to ask. I think there's this whole grab the brass ring and whatever, but I don't think they really want guys to upset the apple cart. And I think that's a big part of it too.
Absolutely. You know what? I think within range, I think it would be great if you had 1 or 2 segments a week where it was loose, a looser format. I mean, and you may disagree because you're having so much fun watching it. But, The Rock was on for like 25 minutes. It was a little long. I mean, it was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah, but you won't. But I think it was I think that'd be unusual for promo. I mean, I think most of the promos would be guys kind of getting to the point and things like that. I don't think you would normally see like a promo that long from guys. And even when The Rock was during the Attitude Era, he wouldn't have promos like that. But he hasn't been there for forever, and I don't think we would see that usually. 25-minute promos or talking for that long. It felt a little long, but I didn't. I thought it was entertaining, and it was cut up into different segments, so it wasn't like he was just talking about the same thing for a while. I mean, the closest thing to kind of doing their own thing a bit seemed to be the New Day. They do seem to really have their personality in their promos, and I don't really know how that is. I'd be fascinated to know. I know those guys have done a lot of interviews lately, but they do get their personalities in these promos, and I think maybe that's the next step for some of these guys. Owens does that too. Maybe that's what these guys have to do somehow is get their own personality in the promos that are written for them.
Absolutely, and I don't want anybody to think that this is supposed to become a discussion of ripping WWE for not allowing their talent to go and be creative. That's not what we're saying here. I mean, at least that's not what I'm saying. I'm actually giving credit to the idea that they actually went and did this type of segment, and you would like to see them, maybe do a little bit more of it. But
Absolutely.
What? Let's get to something that I saw very interesting about that segment. Overall, was the idea that he went to the beginning, Rock at the beginning of the segment when he got out there, said, let's get, ready for WrestleMania. At the end of the segment, he said, I'll see you guys at WrestleMania. With the idea of him having, unless you really think he's going to do something with either Rusev or the New Day, which I just don't see, especially with the New Day. Do you think that we're not going to see him wrestle? I mean, leaving that segment, it didn't feel like he really had anything building to a WrestleMania match. I understand he's doing all these movies, so he may not be able to. But what was your feeling? Are we going to see him in a match?
He said, see you at WrestleMania. That means he's going to be there. He did not indicate at all he's going to wrestle anybody. I think I don't see him. He has become so much more successful as a movie star since even the last time he wrestled in WrestleMania, which was 2 years ago?
Give or take.
I don't see him wrestling. Like, I don't see it. Because now he's so big and, well, he's large in general, but he's gigantic, but he's such a big movie star now. I mean, Corey, is he not the biggest action movie star in Hollywood? I think he is.
I'm pretty sure he is, yeah.
Yeah, so is he going to risk all that to wrestle a match? I mean, if I were him, I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid. I mean, his movies made $1 billion last year, and he's as the #1 rated show on the HBO. Not a great show from what I've heard, but still the #1 rated show on HBO. So I wouldn't risk all that to wrestle. I really wouldn't. I think it's not. I think it's a silly financial decision. I think you can make appearances and come out and do a rock bottom or a people's elbow and make fun of dudes, put dudes over. But I think in terms of him wrestling in a match, I think it's silly for him.
I agree. Last thing on The Rock, at least as far as I have, do you think that we'll say all the people, The Miz, Big Show, Rusev and Lana, The New Day, the Usos, did anybody actually get over, or is anybody really get the rub from The Rock last night? Besides, the 3 fans who were most likely weeded out of their head.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's always hard because what are you gonna do? Have 3 guys like beat the hell out of The Rock? I mean, what's that gonna do? I don't know. I think it was good for the New Day. I think it's good for the New Day to be out there battling wits with him and talking with him. And I think the fact that they had the New Day doing that shows their confidence in them. Because usually when The Rock does have one of these things, it's Bo Dallas, and he just makes fun of him for 5 minutes and then beats him up. He actually went back and forth with the New Day, and The Rock put the New Day over. So, which I thought was interesting too. So I think the New Day looked better coming out of this. Did he give them the rub? I mean, I don't know, but do I think they look better coming out of this? Absolutely.
You brought him up. I'm just going to get this out of the way because I almost didn't make it to the Rock segment on Raw because there was a segment early in the show that was I thought was horrific. I never knew how good of a rapper Bo Dallas was, or how terrible a rapper Flo Rida is. I mean, I don't know. You want to? That was horrific. I almost didn't get past that segment. I almost turned it off.
I mean, I don't know, Corey. This social outcast thing. I mean, we made fun of the New Day, right? I still remember on this very podcast how much we made fun of the New Day, and now they're probably the most entertaining thing in the WWE. So maybe these social outcasts will come up with something. We know the guys can talk a little bit. They are a little funny. Curtis Axel kind of is like the straight man. They can be kind of funny. So I thought it was entertaining. I didn't think it was anything crazy. Flo Rida does not seem like a good rapper at all. I was more impressed by Bo Dallas. Give him a contract and a Grammy. I don't know. I wasn't really impressed by, but it was fine. I don't think it was a big deal. It's a 3-hour show. Sometimes you got to throw stuff like that on the wall and see what happens. So I thought it was fine.
Like I said, that was really the only low point of the show. I thought it was a good follow-up to the Rumble. We'll get into the Rumble itself in a minute, but let's get to the big thing. And actually, I'll let you pick. Which one is the bigger thing? New champion in Triple H or AJ Styles being part of the WWE?
I mean, the immediate thing probably is AJ because we've been waiting for him for a while. But, I mean, it's got to be Triple H, right? I mean, he's going to be the main event of WrestleMania. We don't know what the hell they're going to do with AJ. He might be in 8-man tags jobbing out to the Ascension in a couple of months. We have no idea where they're going to go with him. So it's got to be Triple H being the champion. I liked his promo on Monday. I think I'm going to enjoy what they do with him as champion. Obviously, he's only going to wrestle basically one match as champion, and that's against probably Roman Reigns. But I enjoyed his promo. I enjoy Triple H when he's like a little bit more fired up. And I think him being the champion is definitely a little weird. And we know the WWE champion is not going to wrestle in a match for like 2 months, which is kind of strange as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go. Similar to Brock Lesnar. So, but he's never going to be wrestling like Fastlane. Like he's not going to have any, he's not going to do anything for a while. So, that would be a little weird maybe, but I liked this promo, and I think they could do some really good things telling that story, flushing it out. Why Triple H hates him, why he's so mad that Reigns is involved, all those sorts of things.
You know what? I how do I put this? Sometimes we bitch and complain, me more than Jay. I'll be the first one to say that about things. But you know what? Sometimes the simplest solution is the right solution. You've decided to go and give a story of Roman Reigns being against the authority. I mean, kind of makes no sense why they don't like Roman Reigns. I mean, that part of the story is still a little shaky to me. But I think that Roman Reigns fighting for the title is the right thing for the story that they're telling. Do I think, Triple H being champion in 2016 makes sense logically? Not really. But I think it's the right thing for the story they're telling. I'm going to say this week after week. With all the injuries they have, I don't know. Maybe, maybe Triple H shouldn't be champion, but he should still face Roman Reigns. But I really like the idea that they've started on something, and as of right now, it looks like they're going to go give you a payoff to the story. You're not going to have to wait, another 6 months to find out Roman Reigns actually is able to face Triple H somewhere. So, I mean, I like that. I think the way that they did it at the Rumble, I thought was well done. You had the idea that it wasn't Triple H versus Roman Reigns, the last two guys. You gave Dean Ambrose, I think, a little bit of a rub. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think Dean Ambrose mostly should have been able to talk a little bit on Monday after being the second to last guy, basically the last guy eliminated. I think with the Rock segment going so long, maybe that had to get cut out. That's conjecture. I don't know anything for sure on that. But I think it was done well, and I really do like the idea of Triple H being champion for this period of time and seeing what type of stuff he can do. I mean, I thought maybe you'll disagree. You said you liked the promo, but you know what? That really felt like a babyface promo to me. That did not feel like a heel promo. That was a guy who loves wrestling, feels wrestling is the most important thing. Is he pompous? But it felt like a babyface promo, and this is to be the biggest thing that they get by, especially if they go in this direction. You saw what happened at the Rumble. Roman Reigns was booed, and he was cheered a little bit here and there. He was booed.
He was shit on Raw. He was shit on Raw.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, he was cheered a little bit, but you know what? One thing that we've spoken about this podcast multiple times: the crowd that's at a Raw is different than the crowd that's at a Rumble or a Mania. And if your Rumble crowd and your SummerSlam crowd are going to go and basically crap on or shit on your number one contender and your most likely future champion, who's supposed to be the babyface, you don't think that's going to be the reaction at WrestleMania where you have even more hardcore fans?
Yeah, I mean, the one line that Triple H said that I loved, he goes, "I'm going to be champion as long as I want to be champion. I'm the WWE champion because I decided to be." Like, that's such a line that none of these guys can say. You know what I mean? Like, none of these guys can use that line. Like, I wanted to be champion because I felt like it, because I wanted to take the title. And I love that he said that. I think it made him seem like such – and again, that you could say what you want about what that means for the rest of the roster, where he could say that and nobody else can. I think that's also an issue in itself. In terms of the booing and stuff, I think we talked about why Reigns gets reactions during pay-per-views and Raws are different. And I think we both talked about – I think you mentioned the traveling thing, that fans travel. And I think that's definitely true. I think there are a lot of fans traveling to the big shows like the Mania, the Royal Rumble, and that could be why Reigns got that negative reaction. Obviously, the fans were clamoring for AJ, and he was probably the biggest star at the Royal Rumble. He's probably got the biggest reaction at the Royal Rumble. So there's definitely that element of it. Everyone's saying they should turn Reigns heel. I don't know, Corey. I feel like at this point, you got to keep it going. I mean, he got a big reaction at I think the TLC pay-per-view when he attacked Triple H. People were going nuts. They were going legitimately nuts, and not, it's the internet, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do. It's this thing happened, and people lost their shit, and I think they need to continue down that path. And I think all the hate for Reigns, I think, is stupid anyway. I really do. I think he's not the greatest worker ever. He's not the greatest on the mic, but he's got the look. He's pretty good in the ring. I think he's charismatic. I think he has what you need to be champion. So does it annoy me a little bit? Or is it, I think, a little silly that the people are booing him and all that? Yes, a little bit. Does he have to be their favorite guy? No, but this kind of vitriol against Reigns in general kind of is annoying to me, and I'm sure Ed would agree. But Eddie Z. But yeah, I think you got to keep going with this. I think the idea of turning him heel at this point really isn't the way to go. They could try to do this when Rollins returns. I think maybe it would make sense then. But for now, they've got to keep going with the storyline that they have going.
Well, we can get to this conversation another time, but I don't know if I consider him that charismatic, really. I think the women find him attractive. That's great. I think he's okay in the ring. I've said in the past that Roman Reigns being champion isn't the worst thing in the world, and I think that he's put in some time, and I think he's better than he was, 2 years ago when he got that monster push at the Royal Rumble when he eliminated, 14 guys. Well, this is something we'll mostly talk as the weeks go on about Reigns. A lot of things I have to say about that. We won't get that right now because we have a lot of things to talk about. But I would say Reigns Triple H is going to be it's going to be your title match. I think Triple H being champion, I think fits the story they're going with. Would I feel a lot better about this if this was, 1997 and he was, 15 years younger and was going to most likely wrestle more and all the other things? But I even said it myself. Brock Lesnar, wrestled, once every 2 months. Now he's wrestling a little bit more now that he's got an actual 3-year contract, so we don't know he's definitely leaving. I think it's an interesting story, and I think we have a long way to go in these 60+ days to WrestleMania. I think there'll be a lot of twists and turns. And I think by the end of it, I think they'll have a decent match. I mean, do I think it's gonna be the best match on the show? No.
It's gonna have to be a slugfest. It's gonna have to be these guys beating the shit out of each other. I think that's where they're gonna have to go with it, or else the match might struggle. Because Triple H, as we saw with Sting last year, I mean, he's lost his fastball a little bit. It wasn't a good match, I thought, really at all. And I think he's gonna have to have some gimmicks really to push this match through. That being said, we'll see. But we got a long time to talk about all that.
Absolutely. Next, which we kind of spoke about for a second before, some guy, the former IWGP Heavyweight Champion 2 times, the only other guy, basically American Vader, which we got told, or that title that Brock Lesnar held, never was in TNA or anything. But AJ Styles, number 3 in the Rumble, number 1 in our hearts. What was your thoughts on the AJ Styles 2-day experiment so far, Rumble and Raw versus Jericho?
Yeah, so I thought the match with Jericho was very good. I thought they told a good story. It wasn't a crazy high-flying match, but I really enjoyed those two, and I would really like to see them work again. I wish Jericho was like 5 years younger, but because I think – but he still can work. I would love to see him be a little younger. It is what it is.
Sounds like for this show, everybody being a little bit younger.
Yeah. I thought the way they put him out there on Royal Rumble, and this is what about WWE what drives me crazy, Corey. Probably the thing that drives me more crazy than anything in wrestling. When the WWE wants to book things right and they know what they're doing. They really do. What they did with AJ and how they had him come out, and as others have mentioned, Jason Powell's of the world have mentioned, we didn't have this Reigns out there and then a bunch of Hammenagers out there while the fans were going crazy for AJ. They brought him out immediately, so we didn't have to have the backlash against Reigns. And the fans loved it. AJ was in there for a long time. Michael Cole put him over pretty hard, and they made fans as familiar with them, as they could with the time allotted. Talking about the Rumble, but he looked great. I love what they're doing with the Styles Clash. I love that they're not having him do the move yet. I hope that they haven't. There's people saying, "Oh, they're not going to allow him to do it." I have no idea if that's true. I'd love for them to have him do it, but I'd love for them to only bring it out during pay-per-views, during big matches. Make people pay to see that move. Kind of like what they did in New Japan. So I love that element of it. And yeah, I really like what they've done with him so far. Again, who knows? But they've made him seem like a big deal. And what I want to see over the next couple of weeks, and this is old school, but I'd love to see it, are some video packages talking about this guy and where he came from. Obviously not TNA because he never wrestled there before. TNA is not a company. But where he came from, talking about, kind of building him up a little bit and talking a little bit about his history. Because obviously the internet fans all know who he is, but a 10-year-old kid may not have any idea who AJ Styles is. So what is this guy? Who is he? And why should we care about him most importantly? So they need to get that over to the fans while also building up whatever feud he's going to be in. So yeah, we'll see if they do that, but I think his debut is off to a tremendous, tremendous start.
I agree. And just like Jason Powell, Wade Keller, and a lot of people have said, the idea that putting him in at number 3 was smart for himself, and it also it limited the boos at that time that Roman Reigns was going to get. And also bringing in, Chris Jericho at 6, you had some workhorses in there where you can go and cover up the boos of Roman Reigns. So I thought that was done well. He was in the Rumble for, I think, about 30 minutes, which I thought, he showed some stuff. I mean, for a guy who's had, supposedly almost had a broken back a couple of weeks ago, he took quite a number of back bumps. I was a little surprised on that, but I mean, the real trooper. I think that AJ is going to help Chris Jericho because I think the heel turn of Chris Jericho is going to come as a result of this. I think you saw the beginnings of that at the end of the match. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how McMahon views AJ Styles. Is Triple H, who's the big fan of AJ and is giving him this chance, and then when Vince actually sees more of him, does he go, the guy can't talk and he's small and everything else? Let's hope that doesn't happen. I thought that they set up some interesting things in regards to Kevin Owens eliminating him at the Rumble, and also the following day on Raw, there was a comment by the announcers saying that he was eliminated by Kevin Owens. So you kept that idea there. I don't know if they'll do that at Fastlane or if that'll be his possible WrestleMania opponent. I mean, hoping he's on the WrestleMania card, not the Rumble. I'm sorry, not the Rumble. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But I think that another thing they did quite well. I mean, there'll be points on the show in which I'm sure we'll both bitch and moan at some stuff going on with the product. But I think a lot of things they've done well over this 48-hour period, which, it's a very similar way we felt after SummerSlam. And then it went downhill for a while. So
well, I think we've got a good place that they're going. I thought the Royal Rumble was fantastic, Corey. I think the Royal Rumble was their best pay-per-view since last year's SummerSlam by far. I thought, and I think maybe better than last year's SummerSlam. I enjoyed it more. It's my favorite show since WrestleMania, or maybe since last year's Royal Rumble. I thought this year's was great. The Last Man Standing, the Royal Rumble itself, the women's match, what they did. I thought the whole thing was great. We're seeing some positive momentum. Let's keep that going. Let's keep that going. Now we get another 3-hour Raw. That's the same boring mess that we've had. It's going to be tough. But we had a good Raw, a great Rumble. Cutting out?
Yeah, hop in, hop out.
Let's keep that going. Let's keep that going. Now we got another 3-hour Raw. That's the same boring mess that we've had. It's gonna be tough, But we had a good Raw, a great Rumble. Rumble itself, the women's match, what they did, I thought the whole thing was great. We're seeing some pop.
Yeah, tell me where it cut out or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Basically, you said, We had a good show. We had a good Rumble. We had a good Last Man Standing. We had a good women's match.
Okay.
My favorite show was Buffalo. Maybe some action world. I thought
Yes. Can't wait for Lucha Underground tonight.
the Royal Rumble itself, the women's match, what they did. I thought the whole thing was great.
All right.
Let's see if they can keep the momentum going. They're going to need to have some action-packed Raws, some good shows. This is where the 3-hour show can be rough, Corey. I mean, keeping that momentum going is going to be hard. But Fastlane should be a good show, and as long as these Raws aren't too awful, we'll have some momentum building toward Mania.
All right. Going back for a second with AJ, do you think his first pay-per-view match? Do they go right to Owens, or do you think we get Chris Jericho? Like I think, where do you think they're going to go? Do you think Owens is the opponent at Mania at the moment, or do you think it's first feud?
It all depends on if they have other plans for Owens. If they have some big match planned for Owens, say The Undertaker or Brock, which doesn't look like that's the case. But unless they do, if they don't, then at least I think we'll see Owens and AJ at WrestleMania. If they do have some big match planned for Owens, I think we see it at Fastlane. It seemed like they were gearing up for some big match with Owens at WrestleMania. That's what it seemed like the thought would be. So, but it did go against Jericho. I think really you could go either way. I mean, I'm gonna say that they have a big match for Owens. So, maybe they have Zayn go against Owens after Zayn threw Owens out, or they have a triple threat match. I mean, there's so many different ways they can go with it. But the other thing is, do you want AJ to have his first match on a pay-per-view be against Kevin Owens and then him possibly lose the match? I think you want a guy that he can beat. So I think kind of what you're saying about Jericho probably makes a little bit more sense. But then can you have Jericho lose at Fastlane and then have a big match, against, Ambrose or what have you at Mania? So, they're going to have someone they can kind of feed to AJ, in my opinion. And I don't know that Kevin Owens is that person. And I think that'd be a bad idea. Unless, of course, you're going to have a 3-match series or a 5-match series with the two of them. A lot of different directions they can go.
And I think the Sami Zayn thing was just a momentary. I think that was just a moment for the fans. I don't think he's coming up yet. I mean, I fully expect him versus Finn Balor on that NXT show, WrestleMania weekend for the title. I think that's where they're going there. So I think that was just kind of a nod to the fans being like, all right, we know you guys love him. It makes sense for him to throw out Owens. And I think it helped with the idea of lessening the anger of the fans where AJ gets eliminated. And once he gets eliminated, you get them right back up happy. And you have the Sami Zayn eliminating Owens. I think that's why that was done. But I think this is all going to work out where you have AJ versus Jericho. Jericho loses, basically snaps. He turns heel. Then setting up him versus Dean Ambrose for the title at Mania. And I think two of them could work well together, and I think that's the direction we go.
How are they going to keep Jericho strong heading into Mania? To me, that's the other question. What young guys does he beat to keep himself looking strong, making that look like a credible match?
Neville?
I mean, at this point, Neville's pretty much a mid-carder, low mid-carder. Titus O'Neil, I don't know. You have to have him beat somebody credible.
Do you really have to? All he really has to do is, basically snap and beat up Dean Ambrose, and then Dean Ambrose is the character that someone beats him up. He's gonna go and just be like, "All right, you want a piece of me? Let's go." And that's basically what happens with.
Well, he can't lose. He can't lose any more matches. He can't. Once they start this feud, he can't lose anymore.
Oh, I agree. I think he'll lose to AJ, and it'll be a great match. And you'll have one of those things where you think it's like a Ring of Honor moment where they shake afterwards, and then all of a sudden he puts his hand out like he did on Monday, AJ, and he goes and he basically, takes him out.
Or maybe if you have Owens have a big match against, whoever, maybe The Undertaker, you have a triple threat. AJ, Jericho, and Ambrose for the IC title. That's a way they could go with it as well. Or they could do a ladder match with a bunch of those guys for the IC title as well. So they have a lot of good options with the IC title in terms of getting those guys involved. That way you get Neville involved too, and a member of the New Day involved. I mean, that might be a way to go too. Have a straight up ladder match like they did last year.
I don't know. I think that could be a little bit of a downgrade for Dean Ambrose after being, the last guy eliminated in the Rumble, being in the main event of the Fastlane pay-per-view. I mean, I know he's mostly there to be the guy who gets pinned, more than likely. But I think that's a little bit of a step down. I could see that.
Well, he's got to defend the IC title, Corey. So, I mean, what do you do?
I think he faces Jericho.
I mean, is him facing Jericho a bigger match than him having a ladder match? I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. At this point, Jericho's upper mid. I mean, I know they're trying to make Jericho seem like a big deal, but if Jericho is in the ladder match as well, I don't think a ladder match is a downgrade just because it's a gimmick match.
I think if he's still champion at that time, I think Kalisto will be in that ladder match for the U.S. title. I think he'll have a ladder match for the U.S. title, and I think what Kalisto showed he can do at TLC, I think that's the fit there. I mean, a lot of different things they can go. I mean, we'll see what's done on that respect. But let's get to the last point on AJ before we move on. And it's going to go into, unfortunately, it might be the only time we mention TNA in this episode, even though I think they've been doing quite good lately. I know you haven't been able to see it. And I think the Hardy stuff has been quite actually well done. But Friday before the Rumble, Friday afternoon, usually a time when you throw a story out there because you don't want someone else to scoop you, almost like. TNA looking kind of petty, and I don't know even how to say this. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, if you're a fan of TNA, you go and say, at least they tried to go and do something big. But, Jay, I think you could agree with me. They came off looking really petty and bitter that AJ Styles, who's one of their own, and the two members of the Bullet Club decided to go and not go back to where they don't pay guys on time and go to, WWE.
Now, they did try to, I don't know about rectify it, but they did put AJ over as far as congratulating him on the Royal Rumble, which I thought was interesting. Corey, I mean, they looked awful. They looked like a second-rate company. They looked absolutely terrible. Do you see Ring of Honor doing something like that? Do you see New Japan doing something like that? I thought it was so Bush League and so cheesy, incredibly cheesy, petty, second-rate. I thought they looked awful. Okay, yep, you got used as leverage. Yep, you didn't sign the guys. Well, it happens. It's a negotiation. They fire guys. They don't re-sign guys because they feel like they could get a better deal or he's not of value to them. AJ had a price that he felt like that he was worth. They didn't pay that price, or another company paid that price. He preferred to go there. That's where he freaking went. I mean, I don't understand. If he signed a contract, then he'd be in breach of a contract. Then they would have sued him already. That's why people are like TNA's version of the events. They don't have a version of the events. He didn't breach a contract, or else they would be suing him. He wouldn't. The WWE is very good with the legal stuff. And if he signed a contract, there's no way the WWE would allow him to sign their contract as well. They looked at the contract. Their agent called the WWE, said, this is what we're getting from TNA. WWE said, we'll give you more or match it or whatever. And they said, we're going to go to WWE. I mean, it's very simple. And you know what? Too bad, so sad. These wrestlers have a limited window on which they could work and which their bodies can hold up to the amount of money that they can make for themselves and their families. He chose to make the best deal for him. I don't think he's greedy. I think he did the best thing, and so did the other two dudes. They did the best they could do for them, and I don't fault him at all for that. He didn't sign a contract, it looks like, or else they would have already sued him. There's no doubt in my mind. So they came off looking petty and second rate, like they normally do.
And you know what? It's really one of those things where if there's something to this, they got to sue. If they're not willing to go and
Corey, they would have sued already. They would have sued. I mean, they would have when he showed up on Raw, or when they already knew he signed a contract. They've known he's gonna go. They would have sued him already. They would have already sued him.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's sad to do this due to the fact that I think since going to Pop TV, TNA has actually put on a pretty good product over the last 4 weeks, and it's been 4 straight weeks of the ratings going up. I mean, TNA is doing a better job. I mean, they have my partner in crime here, Believing in Miracles. Ask the Miracle by Jason Brooks every week. I mean, I think this should be a new segment for you. You and Mike Bennett can go and you can ask him a question every week, and we can make fun of you on the show. I mean, TNA gets on the program automatically.
You're ridiculous.
No selling the joke. Thank you.
You're ridiculous.
Hey, the show needs a miracle sometimes. But what do you think? Do you think AJ is going to be able to have a good career in the WWE? Or do you think this is a short-term thing and he'll be a mid-carder? I mean, what's your look in the future for AJ Styles? And and this is the other part of it, so we don't stay on this forever. Were you surprised that he came out as AJ Styles? Like, the last guy to do that was CM Punk, who down the line.
Everything I've read, he owns the rights to the name, and I think they were thinking, like, why are we going to make this guy, give this guy some other name? It's stupid. We'll just have him use his own name. That's the first thing. And they thought they'd make the most money off him using his own name. He's been around for 19 years. Changing his name at this point, kind of silly. So that's one. And you asked where he's going to be in the WWE pantheon. Their history isn't great with some of these guys. And so I would say he's going to be a mid-carder. He's going to be a IC US guy, maybe occasionally gets a crack at the heavyweight title in one of these fatal 4-way or tournament matches. I don't see him ever being a star or a big-time guy. Or then put it, sure. But I don't see that happening. What happened? It cut out again?
He froze. You just were dead for a second. Last second.
Being a star or a big-time guy.
Yeah, that was you for like 6 or 7 seconds. All right, we're almost done. So.
All right.
You'll be able to watch Lucha Underground in a few minutes.
Big-time guy. Maybe occasionally gets a crack at the heavyweight title in one of these fatal 4-way or tournament matches. I don't see him ever being a star or a big-time guy.
All right, you hear that?
I don't ever see him being a star or a big-time guy.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. That's fine. You could start. You could stop there.
Okay. Take a sip of water. All right, so we did The Rock. We did Triple H / Reigns. We did AJ / TNA's Disaster.
Where are we at? How long is the show?
46 minutes.
All right.
We're almost done.
All right.
So what else do we want to talk about in these last couple of minutes?
I think the show's been good this week. I think we've done a good job this week. You want to talk about the Rumble itself? I mean, we kind of did already. Do we want to talk about? Hold on, there was some news thing I wanted to talk to you about.
All right, you want to talk about Sasha?
We can talk about the Divas because I think they had a good week. Yeah, we should talk about the Divas. Yes, we definitely should talk about the Divas. Hold on. And apparently they like Saxton too. I think he's gonna stay on Raw.
Wonderful.
What?
Wonderful.
I think he's all right actually. I think he's improved. I think he's gotten better from when he first got there. And
I think he's a waste.
I don't think he's a waste. You think everybody's a waste who's an announcer?
I do not.
I don't think he's a waste.
I think Morrow is freaking awesome. You still haven't heard him, right? Morrow, Granola?
No, not yet. Yeah, but you also like him, so you also like are gonna think he's better because you like him. And also, Vince is not doing SmackDown either. I don't think he does SmackDown, so that's also part of it as well.
I understand.
Jeff Hardy re-signed.
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah. So Divas, Hardy, anything else?
If I see anything else, I'll just bring it up. But I don't think so.
Okay. So then we got Divas. We'll go Divas, Hardy / TNA for a couple of seconds, and then I guess you want to close out with because we didn't really never gave an opinion on the idea of the Fastlane main event. Make sense?
Why don't we talk about that like when it gets closer to the show? We don't have to do predictions now.
Oh no, predictions is what you thought of, what you think of the main event itself, the idea of it. All right, we can do that another time.
Yeah, I don't. We could, but I think we're gonna be shortchanging it.
Okay. Excuse me. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Excuse me. One of the things that we didn't mention in regards to the Rumble, we mentioned it a little bit of passing in the Last Man Standing match, which I thought was, I think, by far the best thing on the show. But the Divas really brought it, women's wrestlers. And I thought that whole entire segment on both Rumble and Monday, they're both really well done. I think Becky Lynch really shined. I mean, I think it's going to lead into a three-way match at Fastlane between her, Sasha, and Charlotte. I thought the chemistry that Becky Lynch and Charlotte had at the pay-per-view was really good. I thought that Sasha Banks felt like a star, which she usually does when she's out there. I thought everything she did at the Royal Rumble, I thought really flowed well. She went and brought a little bit back from the old days of the fierce females. What was the group with her and Summer Rae?
Don't even remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. Whatever.
Okay.
The fierce fighting. I forget what they were called, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But she brought that back for a second, looking at they were friends, and she made the turn. I don't know if she's a babyface or a heel yet. I still don't think WWE has really figured that out. I'm hoping what's happened this week, she's no longer part of Team Bad. I think it's time for her to go out on her own, even though she had the lower third still saying Sasha Banks, Team Bad. But I really thought what they did this week was really well done, and I'd love to get your point of view on that. I know we're both huge fans of Sasha Banks.
Yeah,
we could be considered a little bit biased, but what do you think of the weekend for the WWE Divas, as they're called?
So, Cora, we've been waiting for the Divas Revolution. We have it now. It's here. They're building the division around the three best stars, and the most important thing is the title. I mean, that's what we've been looking for. They've built a really strong babyface in Becky. I mean, the fans were chanting for her both Monday and Sunday. So I didn't anticipate it at all, but she's becoming a huge babyface. She's really a likable character. She really is. She seems like a really nice girl. She's a very likable character. Her mic work has been fantastic, which I would not have anticipated. And she's like kind of that lovable character who, like, you know, she's good in the ring. And Sasha, yeah, she's kind of gray. She's kind of in between. But it's easy to do that with Sasha because what you say is, hey, I don't care who I'm going against. I want the title. The title is the most important thing to me, and that's what I want. And that's what they did in NXT. It's taken, unfortunately, you know, Nikki, who appears to be hurt and out for a long time, and we wish the best for her. Brie, we don't know what her deal is. Maybe she's trying to get pregnant. I don't know what her situation is with her husband. and many of the other women who are kind of in the background and have been for a while, where I like them, but they should be. These are the 3 best women in the division, if you want to throw Paige in there. But I think these are the 3 best women in the division. These are the women that the division needs to be built around. Again, you can throw Paige in there. That's fine too. And they should be gunning for the title. That's what this is about. This is about going for the title with the 3 best workers in the women's division. I was excited to see it. I thought the crowd was into it both on Sunday and Monday. And I think moving forward, it's going to be a really fun feud between the 3 girls, 3 women.
I agree completely. You know, something you found very interesting, and she's a reality star now, that's great, but I almost felt bad that both Paige and Natalya are on that show because they're not part of this, of these great wrestlers working. I think I understand that most likely The Rock went long, so the second Divas match was shortened to basically like 2 minutes. But I think we're seeing a true divide right now. We're going to see the ladies that are on Total Divas are going to be part of one segment, and the women from NXT or the real workers are going to be on a separate segment.
And you know, Corey, that's what the division should be. Everybody, they did this thing where they had Team Bad and the PLC or the TCL or whatever the hell they called them, and then they had the Bellas.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly. Then PB and J. Corey, they're not all on the same playing field. There's just like the men. There's mid carders, there's main eventers, and there's jobbers. That's what there is, and we need the same thing with the women. They're not all on the same level, and that's okay. Brie is a jobber. Alicia right now is a jobber, although I wish they would have done more with her. That's okay that they're jobbers. Not a problem. Build up the women who the division should be built around. That's what they're doing. Paige will definitely get her shot at some point because we know how good she is, and Natalya is kind of that mentor role, which I think is great too. They actually have the women to have a fun, interesting division. Now they're actually booking it that way.
Agree, but you know what? You say Paige and Natalya will at some point get involved in this, and all 3 of them are very good. I mean, I think Sasha and Becky are on a slightly different level. I know you'll disagree with me. Than Charlotte, I
agree with that. I agree with that. Although I think Charlotte is a star based on her mic work and things like that. But in the ring, I agree with you.
But for how long can you just go with the 3 of them? Does this mean we're going to have Emma or Bayley? I don't think Bayley's coming up anytime soon, or Asuka or someone else coming up from NXT, so you have more than 3 people to fight each other. I mean, I think we're going to most likely have, like I said, at Fastlane, a 3-way, and then at WrestleMania, I think you go with Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. But, Total Divas is on for a couple of months. I don't know how long it's actually on for. But who else, what other guys are you going to have in that division besides the 3? Or do you think the 3 of them, or however long Total Divas on, can carry that just with no other really fresh matchups?
I think they can, but I think Paige will get her chance. And I think Natalya might get a shot in there. I think they're trying to build Natalya to maybe be involved somehow. I know what you're saying about this Total Divas show. And I really hope they keep the former NXT women away from that, because I think that would not be good. Although I do see them having Charlotte on this show at some point, as long as it continues to run. But I do think, they may get involved. Maybe Bayley comes up at some point. So we'll see. But I do see other women getting involved. But you could have these ladies feud for a while. I mean, the Becky and Charlotte thing to me is not completely done. I think there's more they can go there. I think Sasha and Charlotte is a completely new feud. And so I think they have several matches, pay-per-views they can do to continue the feud. So I don't think it needs to go anywhere anytime soon.
I guess what we're basically saying here, just to tie this all in a nice bow, we're going to have two sets of women's feuds right now. We're going to have Total Diva feuds, and we're going to have the wrestling feuds. And as long as they can keep that somewhat separated and not have once again, having AJ Lee this time around, being Sasha Banks or whatever, starting a feud with the people being jealous that they're not on the show. I think we're in a good spot going into WrestleMania. You could have a Divas Battle Royal with all the Total Divas people on that cast in one, and then you have either your singles or your three-way match at WrestleMania, which I'm fine with.
I agree completely.
Our second to last subject of the day. We said earlier that AJ Styles has signed with the WWE. Austin Aries has signed with NXT. And someone that I think a lot of people expected to come back to the WWE very soon, maybe be at WrestleMania as a surprise, was Jeff Hardy, the charismatic enigma, as he's been known for quite a long time. He went and decided to take the money that AJ left on the table. And he's re-signed. I mean, who knows if it's how long the deal is, but usually his deals are, I guess, like a year or two each. What's your thoughts on Jeff Hardy, I guess, taking the simpler schedule and everything else and staying where his family is with Matt Hardy being the champion there now, everything else, Jeff Hardy staying with TNA?
I mean, it's good for TNA. And he's a star. He's a guy who fans recognize, really like, take very seriously. And TNA needs as many of those guys as possible. So it's a good signing for TNA for sure. Hopefully they didn't break the bank on him, but I'm sure they gave him a very nice deal, which is good for him. And, I think it's a good move. Apparently there was a match between Matt and Jeff Hardy that I did not see yesterday. But good for them keeping Jeff Hardy, and I think that's a good move for them moving forward.
Well, let's take it quickly. What do you think, though, from the WWE point of view? What do you think if he would have came back? Do you think he would have been a difference maker, or do you think he would have just been another aging star, Jericho or whatever, coming back and after a little while not really meaning much? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what would have happened. I think he would have come back. They would have been excited, and then he would have been, a guy, just another guy, a jag. I think he would have been a jag at some point, just another guy. So, I think he was better probably staying in TNA and making the money, working the limited dates, staying with his brother. I think he probably was better off staying.
You know what? I'm going to agree with that. I think the idea of Jeff Hardy and TNA, I think he's actually a guy that people care about when they go. Whenever you see, the 300 or 500 people at an event for TNA, a majority of the fans are wearing Jeff Hardy things, so he's still a draw. He's someone, even with all the 50-50 booking that wrestling does, the fans still consider him a star. And you know what? It would have been nice for them to maybe get a Rey Mysterio or someone else, but at least they haven't lost another guy. And I think, him versus Matt Hardy with this new persona of the iconic Matt Hardy, I think will draw a little bit, and I think it's a good step for them, especially if Kurt Angle is really, this is the end of his time with this farewell tour. If he's really not re-signing, I think it's good that they still have a viable guy that people will care about.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I said, TNA's been doing better, but we'll get into TNA another time because we're running a little short of time. But last thing on the agenda, at least for me this week, 2 years ago this time, CM Punk took his ball and went home. Supposedly he's going to go and be on the UFC 199 card coming up in June. What's your thoughts? 2 years later, CM Punk quitting. Is the business any better, any worse without him? Do you even miss him? I mean, what's your thoughts? Basically, the story that really got us, we did shows on him basically every time he opened his mouth. What's your thoughts 2 years later on CM Punk not being in the WWE or in wrestling?
God, that's such a loaded question, Corey. I don't know. I guess I've kind of thought about that in the past in terms of what's changed. And Triple H is still in the main event of WrestleMania. And he's had big matches, kind of one of the things that CM Punk was complaining about. We still have a problem of the returning stars being the biggest guys. So some of the stuff that he's complained about is still in place. I think the fact that what we've talked about, guys being stagnant, guys being afraid to speak up, that really hasn't changed. Guys being afraid to lose their spot, that hasn't changed. So many of the things that CM Punk was mad about haven't changed. The power structures hasn't changed. So, really NXT's bloomed and has really, I think, changed the WWE and changed wrestling. With the exception of that, a lot of the things that are in place structurally in the WWE are similar to how they were when he left.
And you know what? I really think that it's what they always say. The show will go on. We've missed them. Even when they're in Chicago now, it's not as big of people chanting CM Punk every 3 seconds. Still have some stuff going on there. I mean, with the rash of injuries, there's a decent chance he might have headlined WrestleMania this year because no one else is healthy. So he may have finally got there. But it is amazing as he's been gone for 2 years, and I'm not saying he's been forgotten, but the show goes on with or without you.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, but I think the bigger point is what has anything changed from kind of the question you asked me? The show is going to go on no matter what happens, but has anything changed from when he left? Are we seeing the same thing that he was complaining about when he left in the first place?
I don't think it has. And it's sad, the idea that all his bitching and the idea that everyone was going crazy listening to his Art of Wrestling podcast and all the other things that were going on, nothing that he said has caused any change. I don't think he actually thought it would. But, I mean, it is interesting. 2 years later, we've still got, like you said, Triple H is once again on top. No new stars have been developed. We'll see where we are, and another year from now, when it's 3 years later, if anything's different. I mean, it's amazing. 2 years ago, if you told me AJ Styles or Samoa Joe, Austin Aries was going to be in the company, I would have said, you know what, I don't see that happening. So at least on that end, it's kind of interesting where they've gone.
No, I agree. And we did talk about AJ a long time ago and Samoa Joe, and they're not going to sign them. So, they're giving more of those guys a chance. Oh, what the fuck? Again? All right, we got to end this show. I'm getting annoyed.
I understand. Give me 1 second. No new stars have been developed. We'll see where we are, and enough. Okay. Well, after we're done with this, we're going to do the goodbyes and everything. So we're done in 2 minutes. Once again on top. No new stars have been developed. Okay. And nothing that all his bitching and the idea that everyone was going crazy listening to his Art of Wrestling podcast and all the other things that were going on, nothing that he said has caused any change. I don't think he actually thought it would. But, I mean, it is interesting. 2 years later, we've still got, like you said, Triple H is once again on top. No new stars have been developed. All right, I'm going to make my last comment here, and then you could. All right.
All right.
Do you have anything else you want to say on this, or do you want me to, once I'm done with my comment, just you could throw to you doing your clubs?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I mean, you are right. We do have NXT, and we've got a lot of guys who never thought would actually be in the WWE now. Joe's, Kevin Owens, the Sami Zayns of the world. So I mean, AJ Styles. So there is change happening, I guess, but we'll see what happens, as we go along. And hey, you know what? We got another couple months to see if he's a draw in UFC or if he'll be a dud there. But Jason, I think we've covered a lot of ground this week. How about you let people know how they could follow us on the Twitter machine and everything else?
Absolutely. On Twitter, @WorkShootPod, I'll be asking the Miracle questions about his abs. You can also check out Corey @Paladin808. You can check out our website at www.workshoot.podomatic.com. We're on Facebook at the Work Shoot Podcast, and you can check us out on Stitcher and on iTunes. Just subscribe to us so you never miss a show. Please give us a review. That helps us. And Stitcher, same thing. Just type in the Work Shoot Podcast, and you'll be able to find us on there. Also, the official sponsor of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast, and I was forgetting something, which is Punch Apparel, clothing that rocks. www.punc.co. Type in shoot at checkout, and you'll save, all in caps, shoot in checkout, and you'll save over 15%. You'll save up to 15% on your purchase. Again, type in shoot, all in caps, at checkout, and you'll save 15% off your purchase. Also, one last thing from me. Please, tonight, Wednesday night, check out Lucha Underground. It's the best wrestling on TV. The season premiere of season 2 is happening. I can't wait. For all you guys out there, some of my friends have said, "Oh, what's this Lucha Underground? What is it?" I tell them, just watch. It's fucking amazing. Just watch Lucha Underground tonight. El Rey Network, Time Warner Cable in Rochester, channel 145. It's phenomenal.
You're not going to get a much better description of that than that. So, very nice. Last thing on my end this week, just want to let you guys know we're going to be starting something new in the next couple of weeks. A lot of you guys have heard of Blog Talk Radio. We're thinking about possibly doing some live shows at Blog Talk Radio. Seeing where that takes us, as you most likely have heard me when I was on with Jason Powell of ProWrestling.net when we did his show. That was on Blog Talk Radio. They have a lot of great shows on there, and I think we would fit in really well. We'll see in the next couple of days or weeks on how we can figure that out, and we'll keep you up to date on that. But for more information, you can go to blogtalkradio.com/workshoot podcast. So we'll keep you up to date on what we decide to do there, but I think that's an interesting new development for the podcast. Once again, follow us on Twitter at WorkShootPod and me at Paladin808. For Jason Brooks, this is Corey Richmond saying thank you as always, and we'll check back with you next week with hopefully a few more matches for Fastlane and maybe another lawsuit or two from TNA for guys who they almost got but decided to go somewhere else. Jason, the floor is yours.
I think we're done here. See ya.
There you go.
All right. I thought this was a really good show.
I agree.
All right, let me know how everything works out and when the show's up. Text me when the show's up because you've been putting it out there and I haven't seen it and I see it too late and I forget to put it up. So just text me.
Sometimes when it's late, I don't want to bother you when you're.
No, just as long as it's not like midnight and I can't do anything about it. But if it's like 11, I whatever. Just text me. It's fine.
Okay. Oh, and before you head out, you can go to blogtalkradio.com and just our screen name is workshoot podcast@gmail.com and Mad Dog is the password.
Okay.
So you should be able to look around and see some of the information.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, brother.
All right, sir.
Bye.